A very good morning to everyone. Today our group circle will present about topic 6, which is auditing, system development, life cycle and business continuity. My name is Lokaman, metric number 254542. I will be talking about the overview of SDLC. So what is SDLC? The methodology of SDLC is to ensure that the development of an application or the system that will be happen in the formal or control manner. In short, we need to be ensure that the development of a system that can be happen is a systematic way. So for the development of SDLC, it is important as it will provide a method for implement a control during the development of the system. As SDLC, that will involve many steps and phases, so we can implement a control in each of during occur of the SDLC rather than we just retrofitting the system with necessary control after the system already take place and implement in the environment of the organization. So what is SDLC? SDLC is the systematic process that we can understand how the information system that can support the business need by designing the system, building it and delivering it to the user. So that SDLC that will be involve many steps. So the developer that will ensure that the quality and the correctness of the system build that can meet the customer need. So what is the really aims of the SDLC? The aim of the SDLC is to produce a high quality software or the application that can meet the customer expectation or needs, and that will be complete the system within the time frame set and with the budgeted cost. So totally how many phases that will involve in the SDLC? So basically that involves 7 phases, including planning, analysis, design, development, testing, implementation and deployment. So now let me explain about each of the phases. So for the first phases, that is planning. For the first planning, we will doing a flexible study which involve operational study, economic study and technical study, and we will having the project plan. The project plan can be help us to identify the user needs, and also that can be help us to allocate the resources, and that will also have the project schedule that help to set the time and the cost that will be using in this system development life cycle. So next is analysis. In the analysis, there will be conduct the preliminary investigations to understand the problem and determine the user requirement. So in the analysis, basically we involve of 2 steps. So for the first step, we will be survey of the current system, means that they will conduct a survey to understand what is the problem that currently faces using the current system. After that, already collect the information and the data through the survey that they either can using observations or interview of the user, and the data already collected, so there will be analyze the user need based on the data which that we can determine the user requirement. The next step and the phases is design. Design that involve that decide how the system will be created either in-house or outside, and identify how it can be operated by the end user. Means that in this phase, the user will evaluate the conceptual design or the models, and they will decide how the system will be created. And the next is development in the SDLC. Development that will be install, configure the server and software, write and test the code, and examine the flexible study. So in this step, there will be convert all the documentation that involved is the previous phases into the real system. In this system, we will involve that the developers that will be design and develop the system that will be using the coding, and there will be performed a flexible study in a more detailed way, which will also involve what that I mentioned just now, involve the economy, operational, technical, and schedule flexibility study. After the development phases, there will be continue with the integration and the testing phases. In these phases, they are very important in the whole SDLC process, as this one is need to ensure that the quality of the system and the application. Once the software Once the software already be done by the developer, they need to deploy and put inside in the testing environment to run the system, because we need to testing about the functionality of the system, and we need to identify does the system have any problem or any bugs. If they already find out any problem, they need to fix it. This process will be continued until the system is bug free. So after the testing phases, we will continue with the implementation. In these phases, the system will be deployed into the client environment, and there will be begin operate of the system in the client company, which that the client that will be already purchased for the equipment, and we already prepare for the handbook and conduct the training for the end user, and the system already installed in their system, and there will be run of the new system to replace of the old system. Lastly, is maintenance. Maintenance is very important, as you need to maintain and upgrade the system for the user for time to time, as the system that can be adopted for the future use. So in these phases, that we need to monitoring of the system performance, and need to provide us help and support to the end user, and if find out that any error and enhancement, then they will provide the help for them to improve the system, and there will be adjust for the system. So actually, there have several of benefits that SDLC provided. So for the first one, SDLC that can allows the highest level of management control and documentation, as the SDLC already set up a schedules of the deadline of each stage of development, so that the management can control of the development of whole cycle of the system. So from the SDLC, they also have stated the clear roles and responsibility among the developer, designer, business analysis, and project manager, as they have different role in different phases given to them. Besides, they also help to estimate cost and time. From the SDLC, we have a project schedule, and it can help the management and also developer to estimate the cost and the time that will be involved in this system development. So next, will be boost the transparency of the entire project and development process, as they are already involved different phases, and each phases we already clearly state out. So from each phases, either the developer, designer, or the user, they will clearly can see out how the system development life cycle that will be run, and how there from the first planning until the implementations process can be done. So that also will enhance the speed and accuracy from the development, as because the SDLC involves several phases. So if they already follow each phases, so that can be enhance the speed and accuracy of the system, and the development of system that can be done in the budgeted time. So lastly is the minimum the risk potential and maintenance during any given project. As the SDLC, they also already involve the testing phases. So before the system being implemented to the client, it will be testing for the system that is bug free, so this can help to minimize the risk that will be occur during the project. Next, my group member will be continued.
Good day to Doctor and my fellow friends. My name is Lee Sujin, entry number 253004. So next I'm going to talk about the auditor's involvement in system development life cycle. So the auditor plays an important role in the system development life cycle. So let's see the auditor's involvement in different phases. The phase 1, planning, the auditor routinely examines the system planning phase of the system development life cycle. So the auditor can utilize their expertise or knowledge or experience to evaluate the feasibility of project in this phase. So a good system planning can help to prevent unnecessary development costs. Which means that reduce the risk of creating the unneeded, fraudulent, inefficient, and ineffective system. So whether the internal or external auditor have to ensure that the adequate system planning is take place in the system development life cycle. So the second phase is the analysis. So before the auditor analyze, they have to gathering the facts first. So the gathering the auditor can gather the facts from the different classes. As you can see here, there are data sources, user, data stores, and others. So there are a few techniques for the auditors to get the facts. The first one is task participations. It is actually like the extensions of the observations, whereby the auditor take active role in performing the user's task. And the second one, personal interviews. This can let the auditor know the requirements of the system. And the third one, reviewing key documents such as the job description, accounting record, or the organization's chart. The last one, observations, which watching the physical procedure of the system. So the auditor will analyze the facts gatherings and the mere recognitions of the problem, presume that some understandings of the desired state. So this analysis phase is to identify the user need and specify the requirement of new system. So certain cases such as the integrated test facility must be designed into the system during this system development life cycle. So normally the advanced audit features cannot be easily added to the existing system. So the auditor have to involve in this analysis phase to determine that is it a good candidate for the advanced audit features and is it a best suited for the system or not. Then next is the design phase. So the auditor is a stakeholder in all financial system. So they have the interest in the conceptual design stage of system. The auditor have to make sure that the system weak points are eliminated, and at the same time they have to preserving the strengths of the system. The conceptual system such which is able to adhere the double entry rule, and the system professionals are responsible for the physical system. So if these important accounting considerations are not conceptualized at this phase, the auditor may overlook and expose the organizations to the potential loss. So the design characteristic is very important because the auditability of the system depends parts of it. And some computer audit techniques require the system to be designed with special audit feature. They are integral to the system. So this audit feature must be specified at this design phase. Next is the evaluations and selectings. So as I have mentioned the few phases just now, the auditor will evaluate the feasibility and select the best audit features of the system. The primary concerns for auditor is the economy feasibility of the system is measured as accurately as possible. So there are 5 things that the auditor should ensure in their evaluations and selecting in this SDLC. The first one is the intangible benefits are assigned reasonable financial values, and the second one, only escapable costs are used in calculations of cost-saving benefits. The escapable cost here is the cost that directly related to the system, means that they exist when the system is exist. And third one, the interest rate are used in measuring the present values of cash flow. One-time and recurring costs are accurately reported. And the last one, the realistic useful life are used in comparing completed projects. So the error or omissions and the mispresentations in the accounting for such items can distort the analysis and may result in the materially flawed decisions. So this is very important. The next implementation phase. So the system will be installed in the organizations. The auditor have to provide the technical expertise to the assist employee or the new employee. So the detailed design phase actually involves the precise specifications of procedure, rules, and conventions to be used in the system. So, for example, the auditor can teach or inform the employees that how to choosing the correct depreciation method or asset valuation technique. And the second one is the specified documentation standard. So since the financial system must periodically be audited, so they must be adequately documented. Then the auditor should actively encourage the adherence to effective documentation standards. At the last phase is the maintenance. The auditor can review the post-implementations to measure the success of the system and of the process after the dust have been settled. And this is to determine the system is successful or not, and identifies the new problem, if any, after the installations, and continue to analyze the new problem and analyze and fix it. So that's all from me. My friend will continue explain it. Thank you.
Good morning everyone, my name is Tanjit Vom, metric number 255428. Now let's continue with Information System Standards and Guidelines on SDLC. Those guidelines are referred to Information System Audit and Control Association ISACA, which is an international professional organization focused on IT governance. Below are the two references that we are going to discuss later, which are first, Standards and Guidelines, and second one, COVID. Why do we need guidelines? It is to support business operations, organization implementation system, which includes various stages called SDLC. Second, to provide necessary guidance to IS auditors in carrying out reviews of the SDLC of application systems. Let's know about COVID. COVID stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. It is a framework created by ISACA for IT governance and management. Below are the standards that are related to system implementation. First, Standard 6, Performance of Audit Work States. During the course of audit, IS auditors should obtain sufficient reliable and relevant evidence to audit objectives. The audit findings should be supported by appropriate analysis and interpretations of audit evidence, which in other words, it requires the IS auditor to collect the reliable audit evidence with suitable interpretation. Next, which is Guideline 14, Application System Review. This guideline describes the recommended practices in performing system application review. It identifies, documents, tests, and evaluates controls over an application. Guideline 14, the IS auditor can review to this guideline while performing the system application review. And Guideline 17, Effect of Non-Audit Roles. This guideline is to reduce or eliminate the impact of IT audit and assurance professionals on non-audit roles, functions, and services. It considers the potential alternative approaches to the audit process when the required independence is or may be appeared to be impaired. These guidelines provide for IT auditors while they are performing a non-audit roles because this is a workplace that they are not really familiar with. And the last one, Guideline 20, is about the reporting. It provides guidelines for IS audit and assurance professionals to report on whether the control procedures are effective. The professionals engage in reporting the design effectiveness or operating effectiveness. These guidelines is to guide the IT audit and insurance professionals to report the system implementation control procedures. Next, let's know more about COVID. Under COVID, there is COVID management guidelines. These guidelines provide a management-oriented framework for continuous and proactive control self-assessment specifically focused on performance measurement, IT control profiling, awareness, and benchmarking. It also provides detailed set of control and control techniques for the information system management environment. These COVID management guidelines show that the IS auditors are able to know the techniques while implementing the application system. Now let's have a look at this reference. This reference defines the high-level control objectives. The AI1, AI2, PO10, PO11, and DS5. These are the reference for IS auditor while implementing the application system. And lastly, these are the 7 information criteria that must be fulfilled by the application system that the organization going to implement it, which are effectiveness, efficiency, confidentiality, integrity, availability, compliance, reliability. The IS auditor should also evaluate how effectively the SDLC processes stages under review contribute towards the adequate fulfillment of this criteria. And that's all from our group. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.